Kanye West walks on stage and interrupts a teenage Taylor Swift. Years later, a leaked phone call floods the internet with snake emojis and think pieces. In between and after, there are fights with tech platforms, an open letter to Apple, a dispute over who owns her earliest master recordings, a ticketing collapse big enough to reach the US Senate, and a jury verdict for one symbolic dollar. This is not just a chain of controversies. It is a map of how one artist learned to turn conflict into leverage, by controlling the story, answering with music, and moving with a business plan instead of a press release. Before any of that, Swift had already built the machinery that makes her unusually resilient. She writes her own songs, frames each album as a distinct era, and uses visual language and Easter egg clues to keep fans engaged between releases. That system can attract criticism. The very act of myth-making invites skeptics, but it also gives her a disciplined way to respond. When the narrative turns against her, she rarely tries to out-argue it in real time. She absorbs it, reframes it, and folds it into the next project. The 2009 MTV Video Music Awards are the first mass culture flashpoint. 19 years old, she wins Best Female Video for "You Belong With Me." Kanye West takes the microphone to praise Beyoncé's video and, in the process, interrupts Swift's speech. The room watches a young artist get sidelined on live television. Later that night, when Beyoncé wins Video of the Year, she invites Swift back to finish what she started. No legal battle follows. No press conference settles the moment. What persists is a public memory. A teenager learns that control over your work and your image can be snatched away quickly, and that dignity often comes from who hands you the microphone next. Years pass. In 2016, West releases "Famous," a song that references Swift in a way that many listeners find demeaning. Soon after, Kim Kardashian posts edited footage of a phone call suggesting Swift had approved the idea. The internet treats the edit as a verdict. The word "liar" starts to trail her online. Snake emojis flood her mentions. Comment sections become a courtroom. Swift's response is not to wage war post by post. She retreats, then returns with a new aesthetic language: black, hard-edged, reptilian. The album reputation doesn't deny the storm. It metabolizes it. The snake, once a symbol thrown at her, becomes the logo she wields. In 2020, a longer version of that call surfaces and shows that while she discussed the "might still have sex" concept, she did not approve the later degrading word. By then, the point is already larger than a transcript. It is about method. She demonstrates that you can survive a cycle of public doubt if you keep your counter-narrative inside the music, the tour, and the visuals rather than inside 1,000 reactive statements. Even as that saga brews, another front opens: streaming economics. In 2014, Swift removes her catalog from Spotify, criticizing the free, ad-supported tier and the way it values recorded music. In 2015, as Apple prepares to launch Apple Music with an unpaid 3-month free trial for artists, she publishes an open letter arguing that creators should be compensated even during the trial period. Apple reverses course within days and begins paying royalties during the free trial. People can debate tone, timing, or tactics, but one outcome is not disputed. A major platform changed a policy in direct response to a public argument made by an artist. 2 years later, Swift's catalog returns to Spotify under her terms, and the conversation about streaming payouts becomes more mainstream. The episode adds a new dimension to her image, not just a pop star with a knack for spectacle, but a working songwriter who will publicly argue for how the business should treat the people who make the product. The most complex conflict arrives in 2019 with the sale of her first 6 albums' master recordings. Big Machine label group sells those masters to Scooter Braun's Ithaca Holdings. Swift says she wasn't offered a fair path to purchase, framing the sale as a loss of control over her musical past. The following year, those masters are sold again, this time to Shamrock Capital. Instead of relying on courts to untangle everything, she picks a tool the law and her contracts allow: re-recording. Beginning in 2021, Taylor's version albums start to appear. They are not mere facsimiles. They come with vault tracks and rollouts that feel like new cultural events. Radio programmers, fans, and film/TV music supervisors now have a clean alternative they can choose to license and support. The effect is both practical and symbolic. Practically, it gives her stake in the revenue from those new masters. Symbolically, it transforms "someone else owns your past" into "I can rebuild my past on my terms." As more of the early catalog is re-recorded, the market has to make choices, and many stakeholders choose the versions that credit the artist who made the work. There is also a courtroom chapter about boundaries and accountability that has nothing to do with contracts or licensing. In 2017, a Denver jury awards Swift the single dollar she sought in a countersuit against a former radio host she accused of groping her during a pre-concert photo op. The dollar is a symbol by design. The point is not damages, it is declaration. The verdict says, in a forum with rules of evidence, that her account was credible. Swift's statement afterward points outward, to other people who might need to be believed when they describe harm. It is a small number attached to a large message about power, consent, and what it means to stand your ground with the system's tools rather than social media's appetite. Copyright dust-ups appear from time to time, as they do for many high-profile writers. The most visible among them involves the phrase structure behind "shake it off." After years of motions, the case is dismissed in 2022 by stipulation of the parties. It disappears not with a headline-grabbing verdict, but with a quieter closure that resolves many such disputes. The bigger contour remains. When you write at scale in pop forms, you live in a legal environment where similarities, melodic, rhythmic, or lyrical, will periodically be tested. Most do not end with sweeping precedents. Most end with settlements or dismissals. The news value comes and goes. The catalog endures. Then comes ticketing. In late 2022, pre-sales for the US leg of the Eras tour overwhelmed Ticketmaster, triggering crashes, cancellations, and chaos. Fans are furious. Politicians take notice. By January 2023, Ticketmaster executives are answering questions in a Senate Judiciary hearing about competition, bots, and consumer protections. Swift apologizes to fans for the experience and emphasizes that loyalty should not be punished by broken systems. The tour continues and grows into a global event. By the end of 2024, estimates place its gross above any tour in history. The irony is hard to miss. A fiasco that showcased platform failure also demonstrated demand at a once-in-a-generation scale, and it helped push ticketing into a broader policy conversation. Again, the pattern holds. Shock, scrutiny, system talk, and then a chapter where the art itself expands beyond the controversy's shadow. Alongside these public battles and systemic debates, there is the more intimate theater of rumor around Swift's personal life. The Easter egg habit, colors, numbers, dates, callbacks, makes every rollout feel like a puzzle. Fans play along. Commentators extrapolate. Tabloids fill gaps with speculation. Through it all, there is a consistent boundary. What is confirmed is what she chooses to confirm, when and how she chooses to do so. The same discipline that shapes the music cycle shapes the privacy line. She might make a motif out of a scarf or a number, but the line between public story and private facts is one she tends to keep in her own hands. Step back from the individual episodes, and a pattern becomes visible. A hit lands, an interruption on live TV, an edited clip, a hostile policy, a sale she didn't control, a system meltdown. She answers by defining the narrative in the medium that made her powerful in the first place. Songs and albums anchored to a visual world, supported by a business move that nudges markets. The result is not that controversy disappears. It is that controversy is converted into momentum. The response is rarely pure defiance, and it is never just apology. It is usually a mix of reframing and building. Here is the story as I understand it, and here is the work that will outlast the noise. The 2009 VMA moment becomes the seed for a later chapter in which she uses a derisive symbol as a crown. The 2015 Apple letter turns a policy for a $1 trillion company. The master sale bursts a re-recording campaign that changes how licensors and fans think about which version of a song is definitive. The ticketing collapse moves from frustration to oversight, while the tour that follows sets records. Through it all, a couple of constants stabilize the arc. First, Swift's most consequential answers are not statements, they are releases. Second, the business choices are not separate from the art. They are the strategy that allows the art to circulate with fewer obstacles and on better terms. There is also a lesson about scale and preparation. None of these pivots would land without infrastructure. The era's approach means each album already has a built-in stage for reinvention. The songwriting credit means she can argue for creator rights with standing. The loyalty of the audience comes from years of narrative transparency inside the work, not from sudden PR campaigns. When disruption arrives, whether it's a meme or a monopoly, she can move quickly because the tools are already in place. A studio team that can re-record at high fidelity, a visual team that can remix a symbol, a legal team that understands the lanes of what's possible, and a fanbase trained by years of signals to look for the next chapter inside the music. Some controversies leave bruises that never fully fade. Public memory is not a courtroom, and the internet preserves every frame of a stumble. But there is a counterforce, accumulation. When an artist repeatedly turns a blow into a blueprint, the audience learns to expect the blueprint. The conversation shifts from, "Will she survive this?" to, "What will she make of this?" By the mid-2020s, that is where the narrative largely sits. The questions that matter are not whether she can withstand a news cycle. They are which levers she will pull, creative, contractual, or cultural, to shape what happens next. In the end, the most persuasive explanation for why the controversies didn't break the career is simple. Taylor Swift treats them as inputs, not verdicts. She names what happened as she sees it, but she does not linger there. She writes. She builds a rollout that doubles as a response. She makes a move in the marketplace that aligns incentives with her goals. Then she goes on tour and turns the page in front of tens of thousands of people a night. The headlines catch up to the songs, not the other way around. If you want a single image to carry from this story to whatever comes next, choose the least dramatic one, a hand reaching for a dial and turning it a half step toward clarity. Less shouting, more structure. Less appetite for the skirmish, more investment in the album that answers the skirmish. That approach has taken a string of very public challenges and stitched them into a career that keeps expanding. The reasons are not mystical. They are musical, legal, and logistical, and they are repeatable. That is why the empire held. So what do we take from all of this? Not that controversy is a strategy, but that strategy can redeem controversy. Taylor Swift keeps choosing slow, verifiable moves over loud, temporary wins. Write the song, build the era, change the terms, outlast the news cycle. Whether you saw the turning point in the Apple letter, the re-recordings, or the Senate hearing after Ticketmaster, the through line is the same. Protect the work, then let the work speak. I'd love to hear your read. Which episode actually shifted your view, and why? Do you think Taylor's version Is the most consequential business idea in pop this decade? Or is the real lesson the touring model that turned demand into a cultural event? Drop your take below and tell us what you want next. A deep dive into masters and licensing, or a visual explainer on streaming payouts and where the money goes. If this helped you separate fact from rumor, share it with a friend, and I'll see you in the next one.